Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Jason DeCosta, and thank you for joining me on another edition of Consistent Preterism. I know that I said I wasn't going to share any more this week, but you know how the old mind works. Once it gets churning and things start flowing, different things come to mind, and you just have to get them recorded, or else you're going to forget your points. And that's kind of how it's been for me, which is why I like to record while driving, because a lot of times when I'm in the midst of a drive, I sort of, drift off and think about things. And a lot of times it's kind of like compare and contrast. In other words, if this equals this, then this cannot equal that, and so on. So I do a lot of that, and when I come across a golden nugget in this brain of mine, I like to kind of jot it down on the audio app that I have, and I think I'm going to share this one this week because it's a good one, and I've not mentioned it before. I've mentioned the passage and the context and certain things about this passage many times, yes, but the point that I'm going to draw out from the logical aspect, or the logic, or looking at this logically, is going to be quite powerful and also very brief. Before I did that, I just wanted to tell everybody that my LASIK surgery went well. I know Dan had asked about that yesterday, and I forgot to mention it. You'd think that something as important as that would be mentioned. I guess I've just gotten used to being able to see already in just about 5 or 6 days. I had the surgery done last Thursday. It was about a 12-minute procedure, and pretty painless overall, nothing really too bad. There was like a 30-second period where they put some suction on your eyes, and it feels like they're sucking the eyeballs up and out of your head. That was pretty uncomfortable, and I was ready for that to be over real quick. But other than that, the rest of the procedure, 95% of it was pretty painless, and barely didn't even notice that the laser was on your eye. Pretty cool. Went to bed right after the procedure for about 4 hours per the doctor's instructions. Woke up, could already see very well. And then, the next couple days, kind of dry eye, itchy eye, a little bit of blurry vision. Then it got better, and then it got better again. And now today it's, the dryness and the itchiness is completely gone. Now I'm just working out some vision kinks. Doctor said that usually it takes a few weeks. Some people it can even take a few months, but your vision sort of comes back into focus, after that amount of time. So, but otherwise, as it stands right now, I once was blind, but now I can see. So all is good there. But yeah, enough about that. Anyways, on my way to the airport this morning, it's about 4:30 a.m. Just figured I'd ramble this one off. So you get the argument from a lot of the wannabes that the first fruits of Revelation chapter, I think it's 7, right? Is it 7 or 14? I think it's 14. I don't know. It's too early. But you know what I'm talking about. It's one of those places in Revelation, I believe it's 14, where it says that only the 144,000 could learn the redemption song, and nobody else could learn it, which obviously means that redemption was for nobody other than the 12 tribes of Israel, obviously. And then it says, it defines who they were, and it says, these are the first fruits redeemed to God from the earth. And so obviously people kind of get thrown off, and they think, first fruits, that means first of many fruits, right? That's kind of like the first in the order of many different harvests. But no, as I've said many times, the Bible speaks nothing of any harvest beyond the final harvest at the end of the age. Jesus spoke of one harvest when the wheat would be separated from the tares, and that would occur at the end of the age, which was in that generation and would take place before some standing there died, which also coincided with the destruction of the temple and was all sort of wrapped up at that final time when Christ came for his saints. The resurrection occurred, the final judgment took place, and the chosen ones inherited the kingdom prepared for them, which by the way, in Acts chapter 1, Jesus was asked, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? So this was all about restoring the kingdom to Israel, although the kingdom that was being restored to them, as Jesus said, was not of this world. It was otherworldly. They would be taken there. And obviously this story has all the proper elements of being total bullshit, but it does tie in pretty nicely, I must say. It makes pretty good sense, and the details line up rather nicely for a last days catching up of the saints, ascending to heaven the same way that the firstborn of the brethren, aka Jesus Christ, did at his ascension in Acts chapter 2 or 1. So, with that said, let's go back to this first fruits argument. The argument is that the first fruits were just the first in line, and after that, many fruits are going to be born and harvested, and you got all kinds of second fruits and third fruits and fourth fruits. But really, the first fruits, as I've said, is only the chosen. It only means the chosen one, or the chosen ones, the most important, the elect. It speaks of those who were given to God, the portion that belonged to God, the portion that was set aside and set apart to give to God. That was his portion, his inheritance, and that's exactly what Jacob, aka Israel, is called all throughout the Old Testament. His portion, his inheritance. What else? The first fruits, Jacob. So yes, Jacob was a very chosen and special people, which comes right from the mouth of Moses in Deuteronomy 1 through 10, where he just goes on and on about them being a chosen people, chosen above all peoples, loved above all peoples, blah, blah, blah. So that's very clearly what the first fruits was. Now, does the argument that the first fruits were just first in line of many harvests hold any water? Does it stand the test of time? Does it, bear any weight? No, it doesn't. And the reason is, if you think about what's going on in the last days there, when John looks back and sees the 144,000 and says that only they could learn the redemption song. So first off, that fact right there, that factoid, eliminates all arguments straight away, because they're the only ones that could learn the redemption song. John doesn't say anything about people in the future learning the redemption song. John doesn't say that they're the only ones right now that could learn the redemption song, but then in the future others will learn the redemption song. No, they are the only ones that can learn the redemption song. So that takes the argument right off the table. But wait, there's more. Okay, now let's think about this logically for a second. Okay, so the argument that many wannabes make, right, is that during the last days, I should say many full preterist wannabes, because futurists have their heads in the sand. The argument that full preterist wannabes make is that during those last days, during that gospel commission, not only Israelites were being gathered in. It was much more than the 12 tribes, right? It was the 12 tribes plus Gentiles. That's the argument. It was a whole group of people. Now, I've showed that that cannot be. I've showed that the great multitude from all nations was the 12 tribes of Israel. Revelation chapter 7 shows only the 12 tribes receiving the sealing on the forehead. That's the sealing of the Holy Spirit. That matches Acts chapter 2. That matches Daniel 12. The Holy Spirit was only for Israel. It was poured out on Israel in the last days, both near and far. Acts chapter 2, verse 38 and 39 confirms that when Peter says that. And so you have Revelation 7, the 12 tribes being sealed with the Holy Spirit. Then you look in verse 9, and John sees them, and he sees a great multitude from all nations. And they're standing in heaven. They've received the promise. So they are sealed in the first 8 verses, and then from verse 9 forward in Revelation 7, we see them having inherited the promise. They're in heaven. But they're not called the 12 tribes anymore. They're called the great multitude from all nations, because that's where the 12 tribes were. They were scattered abroad, brought back from all nations. In Abraham's seed, literal descendants, many nations would be blessed. Many peoples would be blessed. That's exactly what's happening in the last days. But the argument, let's not forget the argument, is that the Gentiles were being gathered in with the Israelites. Well, Revelation 14 eliminates that argument, because only the 144,000 were redeemed from the earth. They were the first fruits to God from the earth, right? So Revelation 14 eliminates that argument that others were being redeemed alongside the 12 tribes. There's just no way around it. It's a chokehold, okay? Now, if that is the case, which it is, if it is the case that only the 12 tribes are being redeemed from the earth, then this absolutely demands that the first fruits is not some sort of ongoing second fruit, third fruit, fourth fruit harvest concept, right? It absolutely demands that the first fruits were the only ones being redeemed. Because think of it this way. If only the 12 tribes were redeemed from the earth and they were called the first fruits, then that means no Gentiles were being added to that body. That means that the first fruits, the name first fruits, The ones who were redeemed and called firstfruits were only the 12 tribes of Israel, according to Revelation 14. That means no foreigners, no pagans, no true Gentiles. Anybody who was not attached to that body of Israel was not part of the firstfruits body, the chosen ones. They were not part of Jacob. So then how much sense does it really make to say that, well, yeah, the firstfruits was Jacob, and God passed over all these pagans and all these Gentiles. In other words, the gospel mission went out to specifically seek out his sheep, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, which, by the way, Jesus said he only came for them. So how much sense does it make that that gospel message went out specifically and exclusively for the lost sheep of the house of Israel? Only them. And only them are shown as being redeemed from the earth, and only them are being called firstfruits. But then wait, suddenly all that changes now, and the second fruits and the third fruits and the fourth fruits are all Gentiles, right? I mean, doesn't make any sense. I hope you're catching the power of this. If there was going to be additional second fruits, third fruits, fourth fruits, and just unlimited infinity fruits all throughout, human history for redemption, then don't you think that that initial group of first fruits would have consisted of pagans and Gentiles as well? But it didn't. It consisted only of the 144,000. They were the only ones who could learn the redemption song. They're the only ones whose names were written on the city. They're the only ones who are receiving the Holy Spirit in Revelation 7. They're the only ones. There's no pagans, there's no Gentiles in that group. So, based on that ironclad factoid, it makes absolutely no sense to say that the first fruits were just the first in line of many fruits. Makes no sense. Because again, if they were, then it wouldn't have been an exclusive group of Israelites. It wouldn't have eliminated or left out all the pagans and Gentiles and foreigners and went out exclusively for the 12 tribes of Israel, as Revelation 14 so clearly says. That's an open and shut, game over factoid. Okay, and if you don't understand my point, leave a comment and ask, and I'll try to explain it better. But I'm pretty sure that you'll pick up on that pretty quickly. And lastly, just another tidbit to throw in there. These guys like to say that first fruits is just simply, first of many. Well, no. Jesus was also called the first fruits. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul, when speaking of the order of the resurrection, says it would be like this. He says, Christ the first fruits, then those who are Christ at his coming, then comes the end. So the question needs to be asked then, since people want to argue that first fruits just means first in the line of many fruits, are there going to be more Christs? Christ was the first fruit. So was he special and chosen and holy and the only Christ, or are there going to be more Christs coming in the future? I mean, why take the saints as first fruits any different than Christ as first fruits, right? But no, Christ was the first fruits, meaning he was special, chosen, holy, set apart, the only one. The saints at the end, a.k.a. the rest of the brethren, a.k.a. those who were Christ, who were raised at his coming, and then came the end, those saints were also special, chosen, holy, set apart, and exclusive. That's what this story is about. It's about Christ, the firstborn of the brethren, and the rest of the brethren being raised at his coming, and then comes the end. And that's pretty much it, folks. So this whole argument of first fruits being just the first in the line of many fruits is absolutely flawed. Sorry, I just went over a speed bump. About to go over another one. Boom, boom. And hold on, we got one more. Ride with me now. Ready? Boom, boom. All right, and I'm cracked out. It's 4:30 in the morning. Oh, wait, we got another one. Boom, boom. All right, there's your humor for the day. Hope you all got that one. Hope it made sense. If it didn't, just tell me to pound sand. And we'll be back another day, another time, another place, and another rhyme. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.